Yeah, so good evening and welcome to this panel discussion on the national education policy. I'm sure this is going to be a really lively session with the resource people and the panelists that we have today. Now, it has taken 34 long years for the national education policy to come, and I'm sure it is a bag of surprises. And you're all waiting to hear what exactly this entails. So we have great resource person from CBSE and from schools, and we have principals, teachers, so that we get reactions on the NEP and what NEP actually means. So I welcome on board our first panelist for the day, that is Ma'am Ranjana Bhardwaj, who is also a CBSE resources person for the Chandigarh region. And ma'am, I want to ask you, the new education policy that has been released recently, why do you think there was a need to bring about this? What was the need? Because we were going with a set curriculum, we were going with all the textbooks were going on, and there were a lot of experimentations of CC in between. So, what do you think was the major factor which brought about this policy, and what do you expect from this?
Thank you for that question, Mr. Matthews, and a very good evening to all the panelists present here. Education is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world. I think this was very rightly analyzed by Nelson Mandela. And since education is defined as a process of teaching, training, and learning, so in a way to improve knowledge and develop skills, and our ability to learn is somehow directly related to survival. This notion goes back to the times of Charles Darwin, who very rightly said that the species that learns best how to adapt to the changing environment it is in is most likely to survive. So those that do not have this skill will obviously perish away. So the new education policy 2020 is a strategic and transformative approach to education for sustainable development. And I consider education as the shortest bridge, between the haves and the have-nots. And it is one of the greatest social equalizers as well, and the key to advancement of society and economic opportunity. So the question was very rightly put in that what was the need for the introduction of a new education policy? Now, the industrial revolution learning model that served us well for a long time is now failing us, since most of the education system was built around the needs of the industrial revolution. That is, the muscle power was considered very important, and that, as on today, is unable to help the students. So in olden days, machines did not have a built-in intelligence. So we needed people to operate machines, and most of the education system was built around rote learning and memorization. In the 21st century, children have to compete with smartphones and smart machines. So a very important question arises, is the education system helping us to make the students job ready? According to a global survey, 40% of the jobs will be taken over by artificial intelligence. So there was definitely a need to enhance learning. And since I consider education as passive, curriculum-based and extrinsic, whereas learning can be taken to be very active and curiosity-based and intrinsic. So there was a need to shift from the overall paradigm of delivery to discovery. So education does must move towards less of content and more towards learning about how to think critically and solve problems, how to be creative, multidisciplinary, how to be innovative, adapt, absorb new material in the changing fields. And pedagogy must evolve to make education more experiential, holistic, integrated, inquiry-driven, discovery oriented, learner centered, discussion based, flexible, and of course enjoyable. So it must build character and enable learners to be ethical, to be rational, to be compassionate, to be caring, while at the same time prepare them for gainful, fulfilling employment too. Uh, so I feel the gap, between the current state of learning and outcomes and what is required must be bridged through undertaking major reforms that bring the highest quality and integrity into the system, from early childhood care and education through higher education. So maybe with this aim in mind, the new education policy 2020 was revealed on 29th of July, which seeks to introduce and implement sea changes in the field of education. So this is the first new education policy to be introduced in India in the 21st century, and the last having been implemented in 1986. That was very rightly pointed out by Sir, that 34 years back. So the aim must be for India to have an education system by 2040 that is second to none. So the policy is based on the pillars of access and equity, quality, maybe affordability, and accountability. And I'm sure it will transform into India into a vibrant knowledge hub.
Thank you so much, Ranjana ma'am. That was very well explained, briefly explained, fantastic. And we are so excited as educators, as parents. I'm sure that kids are not aware of the intricacies of this, but I'm sure the kids are really going to enjoy this. And 34 years is a long gap. I mean, it's a long gap. And we are all as educators excited, and we want to understand what the NEP is all about. So after this, I'm sure as the planning stage comes, as the implementation stage comes, there will be various factors involved in this. And Ranjana ma'am, as you said, there are a lot of dimensions into this. And we are, as you rightly said, in the 21st century, this is the first policy that has been released. Now, how interesting is that? I mean, at least we are forward looking. We have something to look forward in the next, especially after this COVID times. The next year, I'm sure we are going to go strong, and 2021 is the year which they have said that we are going to start implementing this at various stages. So thank you so much, ma'am, and thank you so much for your time. And those who are logging in this, we are thankful to Quarantine TV for hosting us, the All India Educators Forum, which started off with a small group of teachers and now spread across India. And all those who are watching the program, you may also log into qtvlive.in for further updates. They are hosting different programs, and I'm happy that a channel like this has got associated with educators. At least some importance is being given to educators. A country which gives importance to educators will progress. If you leave out education, then there is nothing. I remember a quote which somebody said that the best way to destroy a country is to destroy the education system. So so I'm glad that the 2021 we have something to look forward, and it's going to be a bright future for India, hopefully. So thank you so much once again, and now I will invite Neena Matthew, who is the founder of Mind and Me, which is basically dealing with kids. And that's why we brought her into the panel to talk to us about the elementary stages, the first formative years and foundation stages of a child's life. And aren't we a little happy that finally the NEP is taking care of even the smallest of the small kids from play school, nursery, KG. Because always board is, when we talk about CBSE, anything, it's always class 10 and 12 boards. Rest is, there is nothing, no mention of anything. And here comes a policy where they're talking about the tiny tots. So Neena, I want you to talk about these formative years, the foundation stages. How do you think the new national education policy that has been released will be detrimental in bringing about the foundation learning in small kids? And do you think that it is going to be an easy task in integrating this as per the new education policy in the schools?
Thank you, Matthew, for that question. I cannot tell you how thrilled I am to speak about a topic which has been with me throughout. And I have worked on this elementary education. Always I wanted the focus, and this is like, a vision coming true for me. So to be even speaking about in a forum like this, getting a space among the stalwarts of educators, it's a privilege for me to even speak about elementary over here. And ECCE, in talking about the new education policy, which is 5+3+3+4. On the face of it, the media initially said, or even the parents, they were considering it as a very complicated system. They felt that 10 plus 2 was very easy, but I can vouch for it that 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4 is the most simplified and most effective way of that education has been planned for our country, because the focus has been on elementary, on the foundation stage. And if you talk about 5 plus 3, the initial 5 years are the, as you said, play school, nursery, kindergarten, class 1, and grade 2. So those 5 years are up to grade 2, and that is the foundation level. And then the next 5 plus 3, that we talk about, is grade 3, 4, and 5, and then it moves on till grade 12. So it's nothing like, it's completely different or it's complicated. Not at all. Rather, it is focusing on the foundation years with activity-based education. Then they have inquiry-based education. They are including psychomotor development, and the curriculum is being framed in 2 phases. One is at foundation level and one is at preparatory level. So already NCERT is ready with the 3 months module, which will be introduced in class 1 as preparatory, so that there is a smooth transition of children from the foundation stage to the mainstream. And this particular the 3-month module is actually designed on activities and proper worksheets for those children, and so that they find it easy and be absorbed into the main primary school. And if we talk about the strengths of the main features of ECCE, I feel that India is a vast country, and we always are the progressive schools are pertained only to a handful of metropolitan cities, but India is much more than just a handful of metropolitan cities. We need to bring in the Anganwadis, the preschool, the standalone Anganwadis, and the standalone preschools into the picture. And a lot has been talked about in the policy about the improving the infrastructure and giving guidance and training to the teachers of Anganwadi, and there'll be certificate programs, there'll be diploma programs for the teachers over there. And then you have health and nutrition for the children, and community libraries. How cool is that? Having community libraries for all the socio-economically disadvantaged groups, that is SEDGs, which is it is mentioned as SEDGs in the National Education Policy. So having those community libraries at local level, those books will be translated into local language, so that the children and parents and the entire community is involved in reading. And then you have community involvement of retired teachers, of social workers. They will also be brought into the school system to help out conducting the classes or workshops, whatever strengths they have. And then you have Diksha. Diksha is a digital infrastructure of knowledge sharing, which is an online platform through which teachers of remote areas will be reached out through DTH channels, smartphones. So a lot of programs are being developed in that area too. So, and one more, there was one more point, the CPD, that is continuous professional development of teachers. So there is, the CPD is planned in a way that there is proper training of teachers in this regard. So all in all, I find that, the National Education Policy is a brilliant initiative focusing on the foundation years of the children of elementary level. However, I would also like to bring about some of the challenges that we might face, because change is very good, but we need to be prepared for the change. We need to know the challenges also. So as for the challenges, even the medium of instruction is very good move, which is a local language and mother tongue to be used as a medium of instruction in grade up to grade 5. But again, here the main challenge is again for the metropolitan cities. The regional areas will follow the language, the mother tongue, the local language. It is easy. But what about the metropolitan cities where it is a heterogeneous group? So how do we bring in, does CBSE give the liberty to schools to choose the medium of instruction, whether it is in the metropolitan cities or outside the country, the CBSE schools there? And even if I talk about that, another challenge that I talk about is the CPD, the training. If the training is not just focused on knowledge, but also if the training for the teachers is based on easy, practical, doable tips, so that they have those whatever tips that they get from the workshop they attend or the course that they attend, they have something concrete takeaways which they can implement in their classes. Because I have seen so many teachers attending 8-hour seminars and 10-hour seminars, but there is no takeaway for them. So we need to have practical, doable tips, innovative tips for the education community, so that there is a proper change, a positive change in education. And another point that I want to make over here is, if we talk about the number of children in our country, there, if you have to believe the facts and figures, there are about 5 crore children in elementary school in India, and majority of them are not aware of the basic literacy, numeracy skills, the numbers. They're not familiar with reading or writing. So it's a major learning crisis in India, in our country. And this has come like a boon. National education policy has come like a boon for the entire education community. So we need to take it in the right spirit, and I'm sure it's going to change the entire landscape of education in our country, and we'll move towards progressive way forward.
Thank you, Neena, for your insights into the elementary education. At least now we can think about school as that 15-year period. It's not about class 10 or 12, because in most schools what happens, they neglect up to class 8. Okay, when the child comes to class 9, we will see what has to be done. What has, probably, as you rightly mentioned, the reading skills may be zero, the writing skills may be zero, but they are just promoted from one class to the other. So as per the survey, that there are many students of class 3, 4 who are not able to even read and write. So I'm sure that all these challenges which you mentioned are going to get rectified. I mean, we can hope for the best. And as you rightly said about the training that the government is going to provide, I'm sure they will have, with good resource people like this. Even in our panelists, we are having good resource people right now. And the next speaker that I'm going to introduce is, of course, a CBSE resource person for Delhi, Dehradun, Chandigarh, and so many other regions. And she is an expert in this. And I'm sure with experts, when CBSE is hiring experts like these, I'm sure things will improve. So, Ruchi ma'am, welcome to the show. And what I would like to ask you is that, the NEP talks about holistic learning. We've heard this word so many times, and, it's almost become like a fashion statement to use, holistic. But what exactly is holistic learning? And do you think this NEP fulfills all the criteria for, giving holistic learning to our kids?
Well, thank you, Matthew. Let me first begin with a resounding yes. Yes, it does. And what does it actually mean? I'll lead you through a set of things to help you understand, help everybody understand, right? Now, when I was told that, we are having a panelist discussion, and I'll be talking about holistic learning, the first thing I did is I called up a whole lot of people, at least about 35 people I know, young and reasonably aged, and I asked them a couple of things. The first thing I asked them is, I asked them to think about their biggest achievement or success that they would like to sort of imprint on their lives, and they did. And then I just shot a question at them and asked them what kind of skills did they need, or what kind of qualities did they need to sort of achieve that. And lo and behold, they came up with qualities like perseverance, initiative, teamwork, planning, communication. Then I asked them the second thing. I asked them to think about the major setback. I'm not using the word failure, no way. So I asked them to talk about their setback and what kind of qualities or skills did it take to overcome that. And they mentioned positivity, a positive outlook. They mentioned determination, self-belief, reflection. And they were very happy that I was asking them all this. And then I shot the final question, which was, honestly, tell me, dear friends, how many of these were taught or developed in your academic curriculum when you were in school? So it would surprise you that not very many agreed that these were sort of inculcated at that age. They sort of picked it up from the outside world as and when they experienced things. So it's quite relevant, the NEP today. And moving forward for holistic learning, the first thing we need to know is that we all agree that whatever good or bad that we see in our society is directly linked to the kind of education we give our children, right? And Gandhiji, being the great Mahatma that he was, had understood this. So he came up with a systematic process of training, right? And we call it the 3 H's, if I may, right? So the first H would be the head, right? Learn to know. The first H is the head, learn to know. So all our instruction, knowledge, information, all comes in this ambit. The second H is the hand, learn to earn. So whether you have your roti, kapra, makan, you have your food, clothing, shelter, and other materialistic needs within a reason, that would be your second H. The third, my very favorite, is the heart. Okay, so learn to be, just be. And here is where we come across wellness, self-esteem, goodwill, compassion, etc. So when you look at the 3 H's, it's a balance of knowledge, skills, attitude, values that connect us organically, naturally to the earth and its inhabitants. And that's an atmosphere that needs to be inculcated in our classroom. And that is an atmosphere of holistic learning. Holistic learning. So to put a definition to it, I'd probably say that it's a system where each child finds their own identity, finds their own purpose through connections to the community and the world. Now, when I say world, it's a term that I use very loosely for the natural world, the physical world, and even the spiritual world. We did talk about compassion, kindness, etc. Right? So coming back to the NEP, it begs the question that what does holistic learning entail according to the NEP? Well, first, foster collaboration in the classroom, not competition. Number one. Number two, use life experiences to learn things and experience things to develop learning, which is what we call the experiential learning element. The third, accommodating and celebrating differences. This is not a time to be judgmental. So accommodate and celebrate differences, right? Then the fourth one, well, I think everybody is aware of this, applying the skills in the real world context, right? 21st century skills. They are quite the buzzwords, okay? So, but in the real world context. And then a very important point that is really necessary for our children is merging the personal growth, okay, with personal goal development. Now, that is important. Now we come to the major and the last part, and that is how do we do all this? I mean, this is a tall order. So how do we do all this? The NEP promises that there are ways to go about it. They have listed an outline, which I'm going to just share with you in a very simple way. Okay, the first one: all aspects of the curriculum and pedagogy are to be reoriented and revamped to achieve these goals. Obviously, if you're going to change a system, you'll have to change the curriculum, you'll have to revamp the pedagogy, etc. Second, you'll have to identify a separate set of skills and values across the domains to integrate all of this right from there on. Neena very excitedly mentioned the very fact that all this is going to start off from the preschool level. So that's where it begins, right? Then the listing, the NEP says that there's a listing of these skills and mechanisms that is going to figure in the National Curricular Framework, the NCF 2021, for transaction. We need a guideline. So it's going to come to us, right? Now, this can happen only when the curriculum content is reduced. So what will take the place of that content? What will it be replaced with? So it will be replaced with concepts. It will be replaced with ideas, application, problem solving, right? And when this happens, it is quite natural that we would nurture the child's ability to think. You remember what Ranjana said? She said that the delivery has to change to discovery, right? So it will be critical thinking, and it will be a kind of learning system where it will be discovery-based, inquiry-based, discussion-based, analysis-based. Can you imagine the joy that the children would feel, right? My favorite, of course, is the next point, where the teacher is asked to integrate art into their teaching pedagogy, integrate storytelling, integrate sport. I mean, how beautiful is that? And even AI systems in some areas, right? So we allow the child flexibility to design the own paths of study. Look at the power of autonomy, the democratic environment the child is flourishing in. And just moving towards the end, there will be an age-appropriate introduction of elements of curricula, co-curricular, vocational, academic, sciences, humanities, all across the curriculum. All right, there are no hard boundaries. This is lovely, isn't it? I mean, it takes away a lot of prejudice as well. And the second last point, which even Neena mentioned with great joy, and I'd like to reiterate, the use of multilingualism to understand the concept. I mean, if the child has to understand the concept, it doesn't matter in which language it is done. The child's understood. If 2 + 2 is 4, it is 4. Okay, so it doesn't matter if you say 2 + 2 in any other language. The result would be the same, right? Okay. And last but not the least, taking what Neena mentioned about the continuing professional development, the teacher. So training teachers to execute the role of an advisor and a guide and not a figure of authority. So that's just about it. I'd like to end with just one thing. Please remember, folks, it's easier to build a child up rather than to rectify and repair an adult. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed for holistic learning, and so should you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, Ruchi ma'am. That is always a pleasure to listen to you. Your insights are very special. And, now we know that why you are so special. And we are glad that you are with us and you shared what holistic learning is about. You brought in so many elements. And the excitement, we can also feel the excitement as you are excited. I'm sure our viewers are also excited about the new NEP. So thank you so much once again. And It is my pleasure now to introduce to you our next panelist, Ma'am Archana Rodrigues, who is the principal of St. Joseph's in Mumbai. And she is a principal, but is very closely associated with teachers. And I'm so glad, principals are also, because, ultimately that is what keeps the education system going. And she is a psychologist, a counselor, and, she's very active. And I'm very happy that she is associated herself with our forum and she's actively participating with us. And ma'am, my question to you is that, you've already taken so many sessions on NEP as a principal and in Maharashtra and, in Mumbai region. So my question is like, as a principal, what are your views on it? That's one. And secondly, we are talking about policies, but we are dealing with classrooms with a heterogeneous mixture of intelligence. So do you think that we can have inclusive education as far as the NEP is concerned? How do we deal with the gifted kids? So what are your views as a principal? How do you think that you can implement this in your school or in other schools?
Good evening, Matthew sir, and good evening one and all. And thank you very much for the question, Matthew sir. I would take the first part of your question, which is as a principal, what is my view on the NEP? Well, I would like to say that it's a wonderful policy, definitely. It looks good. I mean, the documentation, the words that have been chosen, it's all wonderful. And I think after so many years, I think 34 years, Indian education is on par with international standards on paper. Now, implementation is for us because we as a grassroots level workers have to ensure that it gets implemented in its right spirit. So for that, as a principal, my apprehension and my excitement, honestly speaking, is of training and retraining not only myself, but also several teachers in the process of ensuring that this NEP gets its due in terms of implementation, gets its due in terms of the number of years that it has been getting formulated for the last 5 years. So at the end of 5 years, this policy has been introduced now. So I don't think that it is going to be easily understood by many of us immediately. It would take another 5 years for us to actually see it being implemented right up to the grassroots level. So having said that, as a principal, my excitement and what I'm looking forward to is to retrain myself, retrain teachers, and get right into the middle of the policy and see how it can help all children from whatever strata of society they come in. Now, coming to the second part of your question, where you asked about how can we utilize this policy to ensure inclusion at all levels. You failed to mention that I'm a special educator. So for me, it's important that it's not okay to just teach the children who are very intelligent or who are the cream of the class. It's important as teachers to reach out to each and every child who are sitting in the peripheries of your class. It's important to reach out to every child who's not able to easily follow what you are doing. I mean, if it's an intelligent child, fine. But when we are looking at special education per se, it's a vast spectrum, wherein from one end to the other end. Now, in this policy, what really struck me and it really excited me was the mention of gifted children, which means the gifted children also belong to the special category, but they are on the other end of the spectrum, wherein their intelligence quotient is so high that they are not able to cope with the average children because obviously, their needs are much more than a regular mainstream classroom can provide. So coming to explanation of the NEP, keeping in mind the inclusive aspect of NEP, first and foremost, what I found was that in that there are specific special education zones which have been mentioned. Special education zones in the sense the children who need this kind of help. Already this has been there on paper from 1986. It has been there, inclusive, taking in all children into all schools and not having any screening at the entry level, ensuring that the classrooms are modified enough to accommodate these children. All these things have been there. But this NEP, the 2021, tends to look at this from a very fresh perspective. In the sense, it has laid down certain guidelines about how schools can go about to make this a reality for all. First and foremost, it again reiterates inclusion of children into mainstream classrooms by employing maybe more counselors, special educators, and also short-term courses for teachers who are already qualified with their B.Eds or M.Eds to train themselves to handle a different type of a child. Now, when we are talking about gifted would be almost 5% of school-going children. And India predominantly have a multilingual and a mixed population of people where the IQ levels and the emotional quotient and all these things are not really checked, because we don't have such a streamlined assessment as far as psychological assessment goes. So considering that, if we take in these children, then the right multidisciplinary team should be in place in a school or in the vicinity where the school is located, where the child can be effectively screened and given the right kind of intervention. So these certificate courses, and in fact, what I read is that specialization in for B.Ed for gifted children is also going to be introduced. When I did my master's, I had to choose between learning disabilities or intellectual challenges, or maybe something more drastic would have been autism for me. But at that point of time, there was no B.Ed like that. So that's something really good that they have thought of. And apart from that, it gives a lot of value to assistive devices, to technology. When we are talking about coding, when we are talking about the choice of subjects for children who do not belong to the average sector, where they are just sitting in the front of the classroom and they are very much following what you're saying. Here I'm referring to the children who sit, maybe the backbenchers, the children who have attention deficit, those who are not able to pay attention, those who have other skills. So we have a lot of successful people. History is witness to a lot of successful people who have been school dropouts and high school dropouts, who have done wonderfully in society, wonderfully in their selected sector when they enjoy what they're doing. So this NEP, what it has said is that 50% of school-going children by the year to 2025, 50% of school-going children would be exposed to vocational training. Now, how beautiful can that be? 50% of children would mean our children are going to be taught job skills, job-related skills. It starts from very basic things like time management, communication skills, interpersonal skills, intrapersonal skills. So when I'm looking at this, finally, our school education system is going to take the whole concept of multiple intelligences into account and give value to those children who are also gifted in some way or the other, but maybe they're not good in rote learning. Maybe they're not good in memorizing. And to take us back to what we have been doing in so many years in terms of education, is that we have been following a very regimental or a very British way of education, wherein children have to learn whether they like it or no, whether they like mathematics or no, they have to appear for the board exams, whether they like it or no, they have to give the science exam. So it becomes very difficult for a child who's not good in mathematics to score even in the other subjects and go for the choice that he or she wants. So this choice and this fluidity in terms of selection of subjects would be very good for all children, and more so for the children with special needs, because there is no art, science, commerce, such kind of thing. A child can have flexibility in terms of choice of subjects. So which means I think psychology and history and all these things are very much needed for people who go and become doctors. Also from personal experience, I would say, because you need to understand in any leadership role that you are, how you are going to communicate, and emotional quotient and all these things play a lot of important role. Now, also in the NEP, there is a lot of learner at the center of the program, in the sense the child is given predominance. It's not anything else other than the child. So the traditional methods of evaluation are going to be out of the window. There is something which is called PARAK, which is performance analysis, and looking at holistic development. We just had a talk by the earlier speaker on holistic development. So all these things are going to be evaluated in a different manner. So assessment per se is going to be totally revamped, which is going to be excellent, because a child who is not able to give his very best in the written examination or in a viva or in any form will definitely excel in a more interactive manner, in a more informal setup of evaluation. So also what I feel in this NEP is that there is skill gap analysis, which is going to be there in the sense, especially when I'm considering children who don't conform to the regular mainstream classrooms. Skills like carpentry or maybe gardening or bakery or pottery, things like this, where skilled labor, electrician and things like that, where in the long run, 20 years down the line, we might not have enough electricians and enough plumbers to fix things in our house. So where are we going to look for skill labor? So those children who are very good in this would actually be able to opt for these kind of courses. So what I really felt good about the policy was that there is a mention of alternative types of schools. In the sense, like we have a Dadar bakery school in Dadar in Mumbai. So similar schools need to be set up where, like I always want to learn ballet maybe, but ballet is not a very Indian thing. So a ballet school where I can excel in ballet, or maybe I can learn some kind of skilled things, maybe gardening, things like that. So there are these courses in India. I'm not saying they are not there. Nirmala Niketan, SNDT, these universities do have these courses. But what is the job guarantee after somebody does that course? So when the entire floodgates of education would be open, where people can choose between courses, people can choose between subjects, I can see a lot of intellectual, highly intelligent children, highly gifted children getting the benefit of it. And this NEP also streamlines the fact that NCERT is going to come up with specific guidelines, more JNVs like and Navodaya Vidyalayas, which is Kendriya Vidyalaya and Navodaya Vidyalaya, which caters to gifted children, are going to be in the place according to the earlier policy by, let me not get into that, but every district was supposed to have a JNV school, which has not yet come. So Maharashtra needs a lot more JNV schools, which will cater to the special needs children, and predominantly which will cater to the children who are gifted, maybe in music, maybe in drama, maybe in even in coding, in computer skills. So what we are looking at is a lifelong learning for the child. It is not that he or she is going to learn English or mathematics or science only at the school level, and he or she is never going to be using it later on in life. We are looking at learning which is going to be useful to the child for his entire life. So that is what is the beauty of this policy, and I feel it is a real revolution which has come about in the field of education. It's a revolution, and the best part is that we will be able to filter out what is not needed for a particular child and give only what is relevant to a child. So which is what we as educators have been vying for a long time. We have been working on getting concessions for children, who are maybe learning disabled or who have mathematics issues. So this will finally give these children the equity that they require, the equal treatment or the equal right to quality in education, which is a wonderful, wonderful thing. And it is a revolution, definitely. And it is for each one of us as teachers, as educators, to ensure that this sees light, this policy sees light, and it brings about social reform, it brings about reform in the field of education in the right spirit. So in order to get this done in the right spirit, it's important for us to understand this policy and wait for good guidelines, which I'm sure in Maharashtra, there is already a committee set up who's going to work on this policy, who's going to streamline the guidelines for this. So I'm looking forward to training teachers for this. I'm looking forward to newer learnings. And before I end, I would like to also say that I'm very proud of all the teachers who have risen up to this situation in the pandemic, where each one of us has, we have taken on the role as learners and equipped ourselves with technology. Now today, a new technology I learned of StreamYard, and every day is a fresh learning. Every interaction is a fresh learning. And I think that is the beauty of our teachers. They rise to any occasion, and they never give us cause to complain that no, education is deprived because there is a pandemic. Because 10 years down the line, 20 years, a similar situation, we are now equipped to face anything because we have all come online and we are learning things online. So that is the beauty. So to end my talk, I would like to say that all teachers over here gear up, because the revolution is about to start. Be positive and bring in a lot of positive energy. Equip yourself to learn and understand how this is going to cater to each and every child. You are going to have all types of children, a very multilingual type of children. Yeah, multilingual, I would say medium of instruction is another positive thing. for special needs children, because they would love to learn in their own language, because again, forcing a child to learn in a different language might be difficult. So that again is a very good thing. So I would say the learning outcomes are what are important. The learning outcome. So it is not necessary that how the child should not be given importance or the assessment should not be given importance. Everything has been looked at in this policy. Every aspect of education from a very, very, very minor viewpoint has been looked at in this policy. And that is why I really look forward to seeing how this can be implemented. And I hope that very soon there would be guidelines coming in. And I'm really, really optimistic about this policy. So I wish all my teachers, all those who are attending this session, the very, very best to make this policy a reality and bring about this social reform in the right spirit. Thank you very much, all of you, and Jai Hind.
Thank you, Archana ma'am. That was really enlightening. You had explained every detail about, the inclusive education. So we are very glad that you spoke in detail about all this, and I'm sure our viewers who are listening to all this on QTV Live are listening to this. Now we move a step forward. So I will also request the people who are watching our program to also ask questions in the chat, because there are some questions coming up, so that we can take it in between. So one of the questions we got was, that how is this all going to be implemented? So the implementation part, we just have to wait and watch for some more notifications, because everything, I'm sure the spade work is going on, but the actual the implementation, we'll have to just wait for a few months, or the coming weeks, we'll be more clear of what exactly and how exactly we are going to implement all this. So I will thank Archana ma'am for her session. And now we move on to Mr. Naveen Gupta, who is, his specialty is computers. So, and this NEP talks a lot about computational skills, and, you talk about coding in class 6 that is going to be introduced. You are talking about, artificial intelligence. You are talking about augmented reality. So all these are 21st century skills. Our kids already are into it, but it's good that it is brought into the system of education now. So, and he is of course a PGT, computer science, in St. Mark's in Delhi. So I'm sure, and he has conducted various sessions on coding and different aspects of computational techniques. So, Mr. Naveen, my question to you is that, as an IT expert and as a as a computer teacher, as a PG computer teacher in a school, how do you think that this whole thing can be implemented in our schools, and at what levels are they going to introduce? And do you think that they have said that they're going to introduce in class 6? Are children really going to understand at that stage? Because this is a new concept. We've heard about coding in Europe and US being introduced at for children for even at the age of 7 and 8. But it is coming to India in a big way in this policy. So are you how do you think this can be implemented? And what are your thoughts on the whole aspect of technology being introduced?
So thank you, Matthew, sir. This is very, very valid point, that how the technology will be implemented in school education, or when we talk about NEP. So through technology, we are changing our world. That is the quote which I must say, that through technology, we are changing the world. In the last 4 months, we've been to a very much change over the technology aspects. And if I see closely NEP, so 78 times they have used the word technology. Even if I look back to my all speakers, they also talk about the technology implementation. It means technology is basically a fundamental skill for everyone. So that is required to be part of this everyone, so that everyone can learn a coding. Now, what is exactly the mean of coding here? Are we talking about a programming? Are we talking about some term called computational thinking? So we are basically talking about if I see again NEP, they have written this will be the additional knowledge given to the student as computational thinking and a coding. So when I say computational thinking, that computational thinking can be implemented with various subjects as well, because computational thinking is basically consists of 4 parts. That is First is a decompose, means breaking the problem into a small solutions. So that is what a computational. Let's say talk about a SST. If I am explaining a water cycle, so I can break the water cycle into a small parts, and that parts can be understood by the student very clearly. So that is what we are talking about here, computational thinking. Then we have a next point is if decompose, after decompose, the student should know how to do the pattern matching. Means what is the pattern behind this problem? Is any special thinking? Is any special marking with this? So we need to understand the pattern matching. For example, if I am teaching tables to the student, if I say table of 2, it's increased by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And if I say 2 into 2, it is 4. 3 into 2, 6. Is there any pattern here? Yes, there is a pattern. So students should not do the rote learning. As my previous speaker already said, we should concentrate on the pattern matching. What is the pattern exactly? The logical thinking of a student, the critical thinking. So that we have to taught our students, our learners, that coding is important part, but before coding, you should know the computational thinking, how to break the problem into the smaller part. Then they should know abstraction. Now, abstraction, when I say abstraction, means extracting the portion. For example, we have already broken the problem statement into the small parts. We have learned the pattern. Now, what outcome will we get after analyzing the problem? What outcome will get through an abstraction? That is what computational thinking is. Now, the 3 steps we have already done, which is on the paper. Now, the next part is again on a paper, that is the algorithm. Now, algorithm means the step-by-step information. Now, how the problem will be solved through a computer or any other thing. People are talking about more of artificial intelligence, machine learning, but the basic skill is required is a computational thinking, which must be implemented in all the subjects, not in only computers. So that's the reason the NEP talks about coding and computational thinking and given a particular paragraph for this. They have written that phenomenal changes will be required and for artificial intelligence and machine learning. So everybody should know the coding. And they talk about mathematics because there will be a huge information, huge job prosperity of in technology. As I said already, that NEP 66-page document, and they have used 78 times the word technology. And if I talk about a machine learning and artificial intelligence, so what do we say? We say artificial intelligence for all. It's not for the computer only. Computer means computer science students, not only for that. A problem solution can be given by anyone. And if I do the coding, there is a new concept of programming coming into the existence that's called a low development codings, wherein students don't know, should not know the most of the programming skills, like he's learning a C++, he's learning Python. No, it's not required actually. There are certain platforms wherein he can just learn the coding by dragging and dropping. There is no need of learning a for loop or a while loop, which we always teach to our senior students. But as per the class 6 student, there are certain websites. If you go through the code.org, which is the initiative taken by the big companies, big IT companies, Google, Microsoft. So they are giving a small task to the class 3 or 4 students, wherein they can learn the programming by just dragging and dropping. For example, if I need to teach my student how the direction is to be took, so they have created an animated object wherein student is just making a left side, turn to left, move forward. So these kind of commands is required, and that is what a starting of the coding. Actually, they are talking about computational thinking. Coding will start later on stages, wherein at the end of the 3-4 years, 6, 7, 8, he's learning a basic concepts through various tools which is already available in the market. And then at the level of 9 and 10, he's learning a little bit of a programming skills like Python or C++ or any other language. Then at the end of the 11 or 12, the student will be able to write some program for the artificial intelligence. Again, if I talk about the artificial intelligence, every tool is available over there as well. Anyone can do, who is not aware of any programming, can write or can solve the problem using the artificial intelligence. And then they have talked about mathematics importance with machine learning, because when I talk about a machine learning or artificial intelligence, So the simple example of artificial intelligence is a Siri. A Siri is an artificial intelligence. Or when you say Facebook, as you are watching Facebook Live, if you see, when you upload any of the image, it automatically gives you face tagging option. So that is what an artificial intelligence. Now, all this is being calculated through a machine learning. So we, as a computer faculty or a computer teacher, we always say computer is basically, coding is not nothing. Coding is nothing. It's a self-learning aspect of your life as well. Solving problem we do every time. When we say mathematics teacher has given a homework, so we analyze, and that is again we are finding out a solution how to solve that problem. So that is again a simple ability of a student to do the computational thinking, but he's not aware of the term. So we need to tell him that this was a problem, and wherein we are telling you this, you have decomposed the problem, and that all we have to tell our students or our learners. And if I talk about the artificial intelligence in the next decade, next 10 years, if I talk about 16% people will lose the job due to the artificial intelligence. So it means the coding or a computational thinking is a need of an hour. And everyone should learn a simple of the coding part so that they can go ahead in their life. And they have making it is mandatory to learn by the class 6 onward. That's a wonderful step taken by the NEP policy. And even if we talk about the further development of these technologies, people are getting, like, I was just reading a survey by the Gartner, which is a biggest survey for the IT industry. So they have given 65% people will use low development programming languages rather than using a high level languages wherein hardcore programming is required. They will use low development language wherein they just need to sit and they can develop any application very easily. So what we are expecting from this NEP, so that will create more jobs. Like in 4 months, in last 4 months, we have seen everything is being implemented by the technology only. And we have handled everything very fairly. I think in Delhi or in a remote area, people are starting, like in a remote area, we can talk about technology. So we are giving them a podcast, a simple audio files, which can be used everywhere. So that is what the technology is playing very good role in our NEP as well as in real life situations. Over to Matthew, sir.
Reetika, ma'am?
Matthew, sir, you are not audible.
Okay.
So I think
so,
you can.
Hello?
Yeah. Now we can hear you.
Hello?
Yeah.
Now you can.
We can hear
okay.
you now.
So, yeah. Okay. Thank you, Naveen, sir, for those, excellent thoughts that you had on, computational skills. You thought about, you shared with us, what is the pattern, and the study of coding is important, and how technology has mentioned so many times in the document. So that is an important revelation. That means that the NEP is giving so much of importance to technology, and I'm sure you as well as all of us are glad that the NEP is giving so much importance to that. And I'm seeing in the chats also a lot of appreciation coming from the audience who are listening to us, that about the panel members speaking on different aspects. And one of the questions that was that how is this, who's going to monitor all this? So the monitoring aspects, the government will soon release the notifications. I mean, as teachers and as principals, we can only make plans as per what the government is telling us. But who will monitor? How will it be monitored in the rural areas? And how will it be implemented in different aspects? We'll have to wait and watch. So without wasting much further time, I will invite Reetika ma'am, our next speaker. Reetika ma'am, are you there? Or Reetika ma'am? So I will invite Narjeet ma'am. Narjeet ma'am, yeah. So I will invite Narjeet Kaur ma'am. She is the headmistress of GHPS. Now this NEP is talking a lot about skill development, right? A lot of skill development is there. So the child is, right now there is nothing called vocational training in our schools. It's all about curriculum. They are mugging up. They're, and practically, half of the things which they learn, they don't even use in their lives. And the big question mark is that, is this all going to be useful for us in life? So, ma'am, as the headmistress and as a person who works on skill development, what do you think will be the future of this NEP 2020 with regard to vocational training, with regard to skill development? Ma'am, we can't hear you. Yeah, Narjeet ma'am. Ma'am, I think you can just check your mic. Okay, Reetika ma'am, you are fine. You are here in the panel. So I think, yeah. So I think we'll start with Reetika ma'am. Reetika Bhandari ma'am, welcome to the, as a panelist. You have, with AIF, you have conducted so many panel discussions, and especially you have done a lot on art integration and experiential learning. So as the head of department of, chemistry in a school, do you think that all these, the art integration and experiential learning that the NEP is discussing, how practical is it? And what do you think is the main highlight of all this? If you could throw some light on that, I think people will get enlightened on that, those aspects as well.
Yes, sir. So, before Reetika ma'am can begin, am I audible now? And then I'll, go over with Reetika. After that, I'll follow.
Yeah. Fine. Yeah.
Okay, yes. I'll follow Reetika ma'am. Please go on, Reetika ma'am. Go on, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah.
As Mr. Matthew, you asked me about the art integration and the experiential learning. I think when NCF 2005 came into the framework, I think art integration started at that time only. And then when the CBSE is putting circulars about the art integration. So I think one of the key takeaway from the new education policy is focus on arts and its integration with science. That is a major focus. And what NEP is deciding is that there will be no streams, there will be no hard boundaries between sciences, arts, or commerce. I think this is a wonderful step which NEP is taking into consideration. And I think when these boundaries will not be there, I think students will have more choices. They can actually choose whatever they like, the subject of their own choice. If somebody wants physics with music or chemistry with any other subject, they can choose it on a chemistry with history or anything like that. I think that would be a wonderful opportunity for people who are not bound to learn particular subjects in a particular stream. So I heard a person, he's an IAS, and he said that I am a person from humanities. I have a doctorate from humanities, but I had a keen interest in physics. But the policy earlier was such that he could not opt for physics along with humanities. But now I think with this kind of NEP coming up where we have no boundaries, people have choices, they can come up with what they want. And when these boundaries are lost, I think the hierarchy system was there. There were silos because the people who opted for science thought that, the art people are stereotypes or something like that. I think those boundaries will be vanished and everybody will be at the same playground. I think that is something required, because unless and until a child chooses subjects of their own choice, they will not be able to come up to what they actually want to be. We want students, everybody is talking about problem solving skills, everybody is talking about critical thinking, unless and until a student enjoys. Because art integration is something, if we are using theater, if we are using role play, we are using visual arts, any kind of art, if we are using in our curriculum, because when there are no hard boundaries, even between the extracurricular and the curricular. So now the focus on academic and extracurricular is the same. So this is also something good, whether it is about the sports, whether it is about the vocational skills, or it is about the craftsmen, everything is on the same platform. So I think this is one thing very important which NEP is bringing. And I think this change will really bring good changes in our whole education system, because see, if a person does not like particular subject, he or she can take it as a minor one and can take a subject which is a major and can do a deep study in that particular subject. When we talk of these kind of things, I think this is what called as a liberal arts curriculum, which is already being followed in West, where there are mathematics, sciences, humanities, arts, everything is being integrated. So when such things are there, I think the students have better learning outcomes. They are able to analyze the things. And the most important thing is that when they are talking about art integration with everything, they have the connections with the real life. Because just learning, rote learning and giving up just to get up the marks is not the scenario. What people want today is that they should, whatever they are learning, they are able to apply it on the real life situations. So I think when a person can do such things, when the students are self-reflective, that is something which is very, very important. And this STEM to STEAM, from science, technology, engineering, and maths, moving on to science, technology, engineering, arts, and maths. So this integration is a beautiful blend. And I think when we have started even our approach right now, when we are integrating our subjects with arts, we are teaching through theater, we are teaching through role play, we are teaching through some art form, I think students are enjoying. And if the student is enjoying, I think that is the best what we consider to be. So it is also seen that the graduates who have liberal art as curriculum, they are better skilled, they have got better job opportunities also, because they can have an array of careers for them. And if we compare, their critical thinking skills or their high order thinking skills are better than what we just think of the technical niche skills. So I think this is one very important thing which this curriculum is bringing in, and I think people will have a multidisciplinary approach. Because when we talk of multidisciplinary approach, when we talk of transdisciplinary approach, it has a variety. So when all these things get blended up, I think the result would be really, really good. People will come up better, because if we are just getting marks and we are not able to connect to real life, or we don't have the problem solving skills, I think that is not what is required. Moreover, when we are talking about the arts, we are actually connecting with our culture. That is very, very important for the holistic development. And when we are talking about the holistic development, we are talking about the culture. It's just not their own culture, but the wider world outside. So that is also something very, very important, which is required these days for our children to be, you are getting modern, but yes, you are anchored to your traditions, your values also. And if all these things are blended together, so if they are thinking that even IITs, premium institutes of technology, they are also having art curriculum with them, I think that would be wonderful. And I hope that the implementation of all these things is actually very good, because unless and until we implement the things and what outcomes will be there, that we look forward for. But yes, I really think that this multidisciplinary approach, this art integration would bring about a joyful experiential learning. And I think this is the best pedagogical tool for us to be with our students.
Thank you, Ritika ma'am. Wonderfully summarized. Joyful learning. That is what I mean. Children should be happy coming to schools. Enjoy the classrooms rather than sitting in the classroom and getting bored. So it's a wonderful the experiential learning. I like that word because you are learning by actually doing things. You are experiencing things, and the joy of learning is the best. The best learning. So we are very happy that our panelists are putting in different dimensions. And as I read from the comments also, people are appreciating. And there was a comment that we want a seminar on art integration. We want a seminar on this. I just wanted to tell you that as All India Educators Forum, this Anubrata Bhattacharya, I really appreciate when there is always a need for learning. And as the All India Educators Forum was created for this purpose so that we train teachers and we create resource people. We learn from each other. So if QTV, they have hosted us right now. So if, we are given the opportunity of, having more programs, then we sure can take this platform and move forward. Otherwise, you can always follow us on our Facebook page, AIEF, All India Educators Forum, where all the programs are posted. So we do have programs periodically. Probably, once, in a month, we have at least 10 to 15 programs. So you're most welcome to join us for those programs. And thank you, Ritika ma'am, once again into, in explaining the intricacies of this. So now we move on to Dr. Narjeet Kaur, who is our next. She's the headmistress of GHPS in New Delhi. And, the new NEP is focusing on skill development, on vocational training. It's not only about the rote academics that we were talking about. As Ritika ma'am said, there are a lot of other aspects. This art integration has come in. So a lot of new things we are looking forward. So ma'am, what do you think about the vocational training? How difficult or how easy is it to implement all this? And do you think that it's a good move that vocational training is finally introduced in our school system?
Well, thank you so much, Matthew, sir, for your question. And first and foremost, I believe that the new education policy will herald a new era of education altogether in India. One that is going to focus on research, technology, as well as blended and experiential learning, as Ritika ma'am just mentioned. So I believe it will strengthen the fundamentals of education and while taking into account the global perspectives as well. And the students, I think this is the most beautiful part of the entire concept, that the students will be able to exercise choice in what they want to learn instead of what is typically prescribed by the education system. So the new policy definitely will encourage learners as well as educators to use technologies such as artificial intelligence, machine learning, and it is going to give us a tailored personalized learning styles according to the capacity of the student. So I guess more and enough has also been said about it by my co-panelists. I'm really glad that I'm able to share a few insights and some action points or key considerations with the larger audience today with regard to the vocational components, or may I say the vocational elements in the national education policy. So the reference we have for this is a document of say about 60 to 66 pages, which was circulated widely and is also available in the public domain. So initially, when I started to, trying to comprehend, understand, analyze, and explore the vocational or the skill development component, I found that the words vocational and skills, they make an appearance for say more than 80 times in the document of 60 pages. So that itself shows that not only in word, but also in spirit, this policy emphasizes a lot on bringing the vocational learning and academic learning together in a blended form. There is a very interesting section in the document which we call reimagining vocational education, which I think comes on page number 43 and or 44, and that I know is the crux of the matter, where the entire focus on skill education and vocational training has been very, very well presented. there, and probably in the sections 3, 4, 7, skill education is given prime importance now in school, also in higher education. So it says, the policy says that it is to be induced at school level from preschool to class 12th, and it aims to empower each student in at least one vocational skill. So the policy makes a very, very strong case for a seamless interoperability between the academics and the vocational streams. See, the introduction of vocational learning and skills like coding, as Naveen sir earlier mentioned, would help develop students the skill required to grow in this modern world. So India actually needed a very radical reform, of its school education. And trust me, mainstreaming of vocational education and skill development within the school system actually is the way forward. As an educator, for me, there is nothing more beautiful than seeing a child to be able to go out with dignity from his school with, say, elementary mathematics, plus couple of native languages, plus a couple of, say, 1 or 2 foreign languages, plus basic computer skills. Also vocational, the training of vocational subjects such as welding or nursing or plumbing, so on and so forth. So I think that is something that is the most beautiful part for me in the entire document. But let me add here, this is not going to be easy. And if we read the policy from the skilling point of view, it becomes clear that there is a need for a lot of advocacy and exploring how multi-stakeholder and multi-channel engagements can happen to make this policy a reality. So I may safely say that moving from idealism to realism, from policy to practice, it is going to require a lot of people coming to the picture. Also a lot of changes which have to happen in the mindset of the peoples, if we say, to think differently, to implement a policy which is quite a radical shift from what the conventional thought processes have been in the field of education, and especially particularly in the field of vocational education and skill development. So I feel that despite efforts, it is a challenge to implement vocational education in the school curriculum, primarily due to again, I mentioned the mindset of the people, which attaches a kind of social stigma to vocational studies. So, it is a common belief that vocational courses maybe is only for the school dropouts, or those who do not do well in academics. Well, this is so wrong and on so many levels. The problem of dropouts is something that the existing theoretical education design which we have been given is really, really going to beautifully address. Nevertheless, I have a strong feeling that with the policy becoming a reality soon, as Matthew sir says, in the next, say, 6 months or 1 year, we should be able to see a much more balanced education model coming up in India, both at the primary level, secondary level, higher secondary level, and also at the college level. So there is something which is definitely going to make skill development or vocational training much more socially acceptable and meaningful. So moving with this policy coming, we are going to move from marks oriented examination based assessment to assessment of skills. I hope this happens, of skills and competence. I think that is going to change the culture, practices, and the objective of education altogether. So providing opportunities to students right from school level to skill themselves through vocational courses, I think that is something that will make schools provide real education. So I welcome the decision of the government to make our students move from mindless mugging to actual learning, real learning, what I call. So this is something I'm really, really optimistically looking forward to. See, what we need to understand here is that the schemes related to vocational training were there. They were always there, but with one common goal, that is to provide entrepreneurships, over jobs, to promote entrepreneurships over jobs. But the current COVID-19 crisis has proved that the validity and necessity of such self-reliant society is required, and it also aims at redirecting unemployed youth to find employment through a self-sustained, skill-based model. So there are so many initiatives of the government already happening: Make in India, Skill India, Startup India, the latest being Atmanirbhar India. So all these policies, etc., are there. But this policy, this education policy that we are witnessing, is really going to strengthen the vocational training concept in our schools, in our students, and I hope it really does wonders for the school system. Thank you so much.
Thank
Matthew,
you,
sir.
Dr. Narjeet. Yeah, thank you, Narjeet, ma'am. Very well explained. I mean, the skill development and the vocational training, that was, I feel that was one of the aspects that we were missing out completely. We have engineers who cannot, repair, fuse of their house, and they are electrical engineers. Yeah.
Yes,
so
yes.
It's really funny that, you are studying so much, but the practical application was not there. And as you very rightly said, that dignity, skill courses were always thought about, this is not for, who are good in academics, is only for those who are bad in academics or who are not scoring well. So, and I really like one thing about the bagless days, so that's a very joyous occasion for kids to come without bags. And, and what I read in the NEP is that, they'll get training from, probably the local artisans, from the, from the gardener, from the, the carpenter or the electrician, the plumber. And these are basic skills which are required in life. Now, anything goes wrong.
With that comes dignity of labor also,
Absolutely, dignity of labor.
Dignity of labor, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
absolutely.
Very well said.
And when we have dignity of labor and no work is, high or low, and, and we recognize each other's efforts, and, we give due recognition to people. Yeah, then I think we live in a progressive society. So thank you, Narjeet ma'am, for enlightening us on this skill development and on vocational subjects being introduced. And now may I invite our next panelist, Sunila Kalra ma'am. She is a PGT Economics from Modern School, and we are glad that she's going to share something on the topic which is little difficult to explain. That is curriculum. Now all this is on paper. It has come that this is going to happen. That is going to happen. You have a 66-page document coming. Now, ma'am, we don't have any textbooks right now. Right? We don't know what the exact curriculum, how is it going to be planned. They are all saying that, rote learning is not going to be there. This is going to come, that is going to come. So what do you think that, how is the curriculum going to change? Is it going to be reduced drastically? What are the changes that you see in subjects? Like, for example, in economics or maths, how much can we reduce? Or is reducing to such an extent really worth it? So if you could enlighten with your experience, what will be the change that we are expecting in the curriculum?
Thank you, Matthew, sir. Thank you so much. In fact, I have been in the teaching career for the past 27 years, and I feel that nothing much had changed over the years. We were teaching from the same curriculum, we were having the same pedagogical practices, we were delivering the content in the same manner. So now this new education policy has thrown a ray of hope. And I see that a lot of curiosity has been generated by it. Since the day it has come out, not a day goes without when we don't see an article on this new education policy in any of the national newspaper. So everybody is having their own hopes, aspirations, and sometimes criticism also, that what it has left and what more needs to be done. But it's an elaborate document which talks about so many things, and it was long due, which was required there. So this new education policy, it seeks to restructure or reconfigure the pedagogical structure of the school. The idea is to make it more responsive or more relevant to the development needs of the students at different levels of learning. Already Neena ma'am started with the early childhood care education. That's a wonderful introduction. So instead of 10+2 system, we have now 15 years of schooling, which is a part of the new education policy, with 5 years given to the early childhood care education. Then we have 3 years of middle school. We have 3 years from 6 to 8, and finally we have 4 years of secondary school level. So this purpose of restructuring basically is to optimize learning. So this will remain the basis of the national and the state curricula, and it will form all the basis of all the teaching learning strategies. And the beauty is that it doesn't require any change in the physical infrastructure. Our school buildings are going to remain the same. It's only the delivery of the content which is going to differ. The way it is now going to be delivered, that is going to differ. And there are certain changes which have been prescribed in the curriculum, and the main thrust will be on the understanding part. It is going to move towards learning. Now it will be how to learn rather than what it was based on the rote learning as currently we were going through. As you rightly pointed out, it mentions that curriculum will be reduced. I'll be too happy. Even over the years, we have been teaching those content and feel that it is not much relevant. We could have done without it. We could have done without, we could have done away with so many repetitions in the subjects. So if that is reduced, that will leave us much more time to explain the key concepts. We can have the problem solving approach. We can have the critical thinking approach. So now we will have something teaching in a more interactive manner. The questions will be encouraged. There will be more collaborative learning. And very interesting, as my co-panelists, they have already pointed out earlier, there will be art integration. There is going to be sports integration. There will be storytelling pedagogy, which will be followed. And moreover, what is the interesting aspect of this policy is there is going to be increased flexibility in the course choices. So the students now, they can design their own path of study. They can plan their own life. So we are not going to have any separation, watertight compartments, as Reetika ma'am rightly pointed out. We don't have that this is the vocational and this is the academic part of the education. Or we don't distinguish anymore between curricular, co-curricular or extracurricular activities. So we will be moving towards, and there will be the biggest thing, no distinction between humanities, science or commerce stream, so that the students, they are not stigmatized. That somehow it is felt that so far has been, this stereotype has been going on that the bright students, they take up science. I don't think that's true. And now the children would be glad to take one subject, say they can take geography along with physics or chemistry and economics. So that would be a wonderful change. And another aspect that it recognizes very clearly is multilingualism. The research has shown that right from the beginning, the child understands better in the home language, in the mother tongue. So it says that the medium of instruction will be till class 5, and if possible, preferably till grade 8, it will be the mother tongue or the home language. Anyway, the children, they will be exposed to other languages also, because the research also shows that cognitive development is better when they are learning multiple languages. So they will even be offered the foreign languages like Russian, Japanese, Korean, French, Spanish, Thai. So all these languages will also be offered at the later stage. But the major focus, the main emphasis will be on the Indian languages, on the mother tongue. The idea is to have to continue with the 3-language policy, so that we can promote the national unity and we can have as per the constitutional provisions. All the students, they will somewhere be working on initiative of Ek Bharat Shresht Bharat. So they will be taking a project under this. And the Indian Sign Language, that's a new thing. Indian Sign Language will be standardized. That is basically for the hearing impaired. Then new education policy also talks about the curricular integration of essential subjects. One way we are going to reduce this curriculum of the subjects, but at the same time, they are going to introduce the skills which every student must learn, like they must have scientific temper, evidence-based thinking, creative thinking, innovativeness, fitness, wellness, sports. So all these gender sensitivity, citizenship skills. So those skills, they need to be developed among the students. And Naveen sir had elaborated about the coding skills. Yes, that's a contemporary subject. So those subjects will now be introduced, like artificial intelligence or design thinking, organic living or global citizenship education. So these things will make the education more relevant to our system. And as you just pointed out, It's going to be fun. There is going to be a fun course. There is going to be a hands-on experience. It says that there are going to be 10 bagless days. So that would be great fun for the students, where they will be interning with the local artisans. So that will also improve their, as you pointed out, dignity of labor about these artisans. So they will be learning the skills like that of carpenter or electrician or a gardener or a potter. So that would be very interesting. And not only that, it also proposes to raise a logical framework for making ethical decisions. This is like what's right, what kind of decision the students need to make. And later on, it will be expanded on the themes of cheating, violence, plagiarism, littering, so that the students know that these are the things which are wrong, which they should not do, and some positive feelings to be developed like tolerance, equality, empathy. So those values, they need to be encouraged. At the same time, there is a proposal to have the National Curriculum Framework for School Education, which will be undertaken by the NCERT. Now, when we talk of all these changes, of course, it requires some parallel changes in the textbooks. So textbooks will have the more local flavor. They will have more local content. And not only the textbook, there will be transformation of the assessment system for also. There is a proposed National Assessment Center, which will be there to be called PARAK, which stands for Performance Analysis Review of Knowledge for Holistic Learning. So we had Ruchi ma'am telling about holistic learning. We had Archana ma'am also spoke in detail about this. So that will be the way that the students will be assessed, and their progress report card, it will be 360 degree. It will be a multi-dimensional report card. Along with this, there are going to be reforms in the board exams. 10th and 12th board exams will continue, but the students, they will be given the chances twice a year. So once they can appear for the main exams, and then they can also appear for the improvement exams. So overall, now the schools, they will be encouraged to have smart classroom in a phased manner, although. So they will be encouraging the digital pedagogy, enriching the teaching learning process with online resources. Now, all this, when we are talking of course, we are concerned about how well it will be implemented. Yes, we are waiting for the guidelines from the government, very excited about it, how it is going to be. But yes, as educators, it is the responsibility, it is the onus is on us that how well we make it happen. So I think it seems that everybody's spirit is so high that everybody is looking forward to it. And I'm sure this education policy will mark a sea change in India's education system. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sunila ma'am. Very well explained. I mean, lot of clarity on what to expect on the curriculum. So we are talking about a reduced curriculum. We are talking about art integration, experiential learning, removal of rote learning. So many new things. Technology. I mean, every resource person has brought in a new dimension. And just to inform, there are so many comments coming up. So Arjit Roy, sir, you have participating in such a fine way in asking questions to us. So one of the questions that he's asking is that there's a 3-language formula that is given. So Arijit sir, I am taking your question. That about the languages, there is a confusion that is it compulsory to teach in the mother tongue? Now, see, this is a problem which many people have not understood, because there is a clause that wherever possible, it's not compulsory. They have not made it mandatory.
Right.
So this is a very important clause, because so suppose I am studying in an English medium school, suddenly it cannot be changed into a Punjabi or Bengali or Malayalam medium school. It will continue to remain there, because the NEP has provision that wherever possible. So if you are living in a metropolitan city, then it becomes very difficult to go back to a probably the language which is spoken in the state. So but if you are living in the rural area, as it has been pointed out by Neena, like when the child starts learning in the mother tongue, then the experience of learning becomes much a greater learning experience, because that's what is happening in the school and at home. So they speak the same language, so the learning becomes easier. But Arijit sir, just to make things clear, there is a provision that is wherever necessary. So even if the state government decides to implement this, it is not going to be mandatory. So you can follow. So it's going to be 2 Indian languages and 1 foreign language. So you can continue as an English medium school or as Sunila ma'am also said, there is provision for other foreign languages also to be taken up. So nothing is going to be mandatory. There is no, rule going to come up that you are an English medium, suddenly you should have to change to an Hindi medium or Bengali medium or whatever the case may be. So there is a lot of flexibility in the option of choosing languages. The only criteria they have fixed is that there should be 2 Indian languages and 1 foreign language. So I'm sure more and more clarity will come as we move on. So now we go on to our next panelist, Nirmala Raghavan ma'am, who's also a CBSE resource person, and she's a teacher trainer. And, she's taking up a very important topic for us. That is the last 4. We talked about 5, 3, 3, the 3, and the last 4 stage. And it's very interesting to see so many changes in this last 4 years, because earlier, only when you go to 11th, you had these choices. You want to go to humanities or arts or, sciences. And now the new NEP says that class 9 onwards, we are going to give you these choices and mix and match, as Reetika ma'am said and other panelists have brought in, that you can study, a science student can probably, study some subjects which are normally associated with humanities. So how is this going to work, Nirmala ma'am, that you are a teacher trainer and you have been a CBSE resource person for the Chennai region. So can you enlighten us more on what is expected in this 4 years and what will happen after these 4 years? Are colleges going to accept this system? How will the teachers be trained and so on?
Yes, sir. Good evening. It's a great privilege and it's a great pleasure to be here today talking about the new education policy 2020. The more the number of discussions, better is the clarity. Here is an overview of today's talk. The current scenario in the job market, why the NEP is a welcome change, the top-down strategy or the cascading effect, the effect on stakeholders, teachers, students, and parents. Looking at the current job scenario, today's jobs don't exist tomorrow. Banks have already started using robots for their operations. Work from home has become the new norm. AI is making great waves. This doesn't mean that we will be totally out of gear. We only have got to reinvent, rethink, and reimagine to be successful. The recent news says that 467 billionaires increased their wealth by 732 billions during the pandemic. Can our system help our students be in the list of billionaires? How did it happen? Which skill set has facilitated this? There are several messages in this news. The smart ones thrive and will survive, and the future of jobs will be related to technology, maybe AI, deep learning, augmented reality, machine learning, Internet of Things, and the like. Many of our panelists have already been talking about this. As per the filing of H-1B visas and student visas, a total of 185,298 visa applications were received by the department during the third quarter in the US. And we know very well today the status of aspiring candidates for jobs or higher studies abroad. It is here that the National Education Policy 2020 marks a monumental development in the country's human resource transformation that aims to disrupt the existing Indian education system with ambitious and generational reforms to meet the 21st century skills agenda. Flexibility is the key word, and we panelists have been repeating it, that marks at every stage with a choice in courses and universities. Change is inevitable, and adaptability to change makes a society future ready, said James while receiving the Nobel Prize in Physics in the year 2019. That's about the job scenario, and it has a cascading effect on the the post-graduation, the research, the undergraduation, the the +3, +4, 3, +5, all these segments that have come into the national education policy. Now over to the national education policy and its recommendations. Many of the reforms suggested don't need funding, but just rethinking. Multiple exit and entry have made it absolutely flexible. Secondary stage is 4 years, 14 to 18 years, class 9 to 12, with its wide range and scope of choice. As a result, drop-down rates may decrease drastically. It will empower students to be passionate about their choices and therefore might escalate performances too. A diploma of 2 years, a bachelor's degree after 3 years, and a 4-year multidisciplinary bachelor's program, however, shall be the preferred option since it allows the opportunity to experience the full range of holistic and multidisciplinary education in addition to a focus on the chosen major and minors as per the choices of the students. As a result, it will be completely learner driven with a huge scope for passions and preferences. As for common entrance tests, the NEP 2020 positions National Testing Agency as a premier testing organization that will offer high quality test patterns. There will be a common aptitude test as well as specialized common subjects exams in the sciences, humanities, language, arts, and vocational subjects at least twice a year. The entire school syllabus will be limited to their respective core knowledge only. The focus will be on practical and application-based knowledge. The NEP also suggests opening up the education sector to private investment and to the top 100 global universities to open shops in India. Candidates aspiring to go abroad for higher studies can get the choice of their courses from their local sites and at half the cost. That's the promise of providing affordable international education at home. This move will help in meeting the diverse needs of the country and improve the quality and range of the learning management systems. In this context, CBSE has signed an MOU with Google for teacher training, framing curriculum, and its implementation, keeping in mind the greatest challenge, teacher education. The challenge lies in the implementation, and it becomes a stakeholder's responsibility to see that the changes are effective and futuristic. The current pandemic has already swiftly transformed teaching and learning well beyond the classroom. In light of a shift towards a more personalized learning, self-organized learning, anytime, anywhere learning, self-directed learning, differentiated learning, experienced teachers of the future are expected to be data collectors as well as analysts, planners, collaborators, curriculum experts, synthesizers, problem solvers, and most importantly, learners and researchers themselves. A collaboration that has never ever happened. It will not be suffice if I am a subject expert. My teaching should be technology driven in order to be creative and influence higher order thinking skills in our students. In order to implement this, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's there everywhere. We just have to be alert, agile, genuinely interested in empowering our students. These initiatives are laudable, but require much more scalable systems to keep students informed of the available choice, help them identify their skills and passions, checks and measures, rubrics and guidelines to create a fit-for-purpose education system. Now, the onus is on us, as Sunila has already said. Let's work together to make India a super knowledge power. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Nirmala ma'am. Wordings were appropriate and excellent. Anytime, anywhere learning. I think that's what the future is. Anytime. We don't have to go to a classroom to learn. We can learn anywhere and anytime. So I really liked the crux of the whole presentation, that it's so futuristic. The NEP is so futuristic. And today's panel discussion, we brought in a variety. I mean, from I think we've covered maximum points of the NEP, and that's why we had a wonderful resource person. So first of all, I want to thank all the panelists for joining and giving their time. And most importantly, to Quarantine TV. I mean, they hosted us. So thanks a lot. And please don't forget qtvlive.in. That's the website where you'll have to, you log in and register for our future programs. And don't forget also, we have a Facebook page, All India Educators Forum. And for updates on we'll be also putting in the programs there. So thank you, QTV. Thank you, all the listeners, for your questions. And, there were some very good questions, a lot of appreciation from the people who are listening right now from various different platforms. And, there was a question that Anubrata Bhattacharya, I think she had asked, that do you think that parents will be happy with this? I think they'll be more than happy with this new policy, because we are moving away, because what is the stress of parents that children are not studying? Why are they not studying? Because they find it cumbersome, they find it boring. I'm sure with this new policy, where experiential learning, where they're doing and they're learning by doing, and because of various integrating sports, arts, music, everything, and they're actually getting to choose subjects which they like. And especially, as Naveen said, they're bringing a lot of computers, and today's kids are into computers and technology. And when you integrate so many things, it's not listening to 40 minutes of maths or English or science. Just it's not a monologue. Now it's a all-round development. Learning happens in the field, in the auditorium, in the class, in the music class, at home. So anytime, anywhere learning, to take Nirmala ma'am's words. So I think overall we can see a bright future for ourselves, for our kids, and for our country. So once again, thanks to all the panel members. Thanks to all our listeners who are listening to us from all different platforms. And a big thank you to QTV. And I hope you will log in to their website, qtvlive.in, and their Facebook page, Quarantine TV, for more information. And I'm glad that they brought educators into their programs. Unlike many channels which forget educators, So thank you once again, QTV, and thanks to all. Good night.
Good night, sir. Good night. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.